There's a reason why some practices have marketing that works and others don't. And it's not a budget, it's not luck. And today, we're going to break that down, what it actually is. Welcome to Freedom by Design. I'm Jamey Schrier, and this is the show for private practice owners and independent thinkers who want to build a business and a life on their own terms. Most of us start a practice to create freedom, but somewhere along the line, it starts running us. This show is about changing that. My guest today is the co-founder of TherapyFlow and the author of The Flow, a weekly read for over 15,000 practice owners. Before he went deep in the mental health practice space, he cut his teeth in sales and marketing at places like the Chicago Tribune and Vector Marketing. So when he talks about what works, the dude ain't guessing. TherapyFlow has helped hundreds of practices scale to multi six and seven figures by building consistent marketing, sales processes, and operations that actually flow. His whole thing is simplicity over hustle and getting practice owners to stop chasing tactics and start building systems. Joshua, great to have you here, my friend.
Thanks for having me. I don't know how the show's gonna go because I was gonna say it's all luck. That was the answer through and through.
Well, luck is always a part of it, but somehow I think we'll talk about creating our own luck. Now,
Yeah.
Joshua, you've worked with thousands of practice owners, mental health and others, on their marketing, on their growth. I guess the best place to start out when something isn't working from their standpoint when it comes to marketing and referrals, you peek under the hood. What's actually going on with that?
Yeah. So I think there's two concepts that I personally use when I'm auditing a practice. And beyond the thousands of clients that we've worked with, I've done thousands and thousands of more of audits of practices that we haven't ended up helping, needing to help with, or they haven't been, reoccurring clients of ours. So there's last year I did a breakdown of like the lessons learned from like over 5,000 practice audits. And two concepts emerged as I was going through that data from years of conversations. One, there's the practice who's struggling to grow for the first time. And there's a marketing success formula that I can share if they've never pushed into new marketing or growth marketing to hit new goals. That practice going from seven figures to multi seven figures or hitting six figures for the first time. That's a different practice experiencing different marketing problems. The other type of practice is the one that is having receding issues, meaning they had a peak of referrals. Maybe they were getting 100 a month, but now they're getting 80 consistently or 60 consistently. Something changed, something broke. And so a marketing success formula can actually uncover what's going on in either of those categories. But we do have to know, hey, is this about new growth we've never seen before? Or is this about fixing something that was working previously and now isn't?
Yeah, when we dive in, when we look at a client, we look at all different types of areas, marketing included and referrals. And, sometimes we think we have a marketing referral problem, but many times we don't.
Yeah.
What have you typically seen when you were talking about, sometimes people hit like a new level and I'll kind of paraphrase that the system starts to break down, but they're like, we need to drive more referrals. And you're like, no, you're leaking oil somewhere. That's not really the area. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, there's kind of three rocks we look under really quickly just to see if there's any tangential issues. Number one is your intake close ratio and your intake system. If we're getting a bunch of leads, but they aren't converting consistently, that can become a huge problem. A quick example is if we have a 20% close ratio on leads coming in, so two out of every 10 people who contact you become clients versus a 40% close ratio, four out of 10 people, you're actually getting twice as many new intakes from the same amount of leads. when downstream issues are happening in your practice, marketing pays the cost, and it's a very expensive cost. So, is intake going well? Our first, second, and third retention going well? And then is lifetime value going well, which is like long form retention with your clinicians? If those three zones are failing, even there's other
Well,
billing issues, we could go down the rabbit holes, but like clinical retention, short term, long term, intake close ratio. I look at those very quickly, but very closely when I'm doing a big audit, just to make sure there's not gaping holes in the bucket before we go back to the marketing conversation.
right. Do you have a referral coming in? Does that referral convert to a plan of care? Do they actually show up for the plan of care? And do they actually complete the plan of care? Which, depending, because sometimes, especially in the mental health space, I mean, they could be there for years, but there needs to be some level of 3 months or 6 months that you can
Yep.
measure, like, are they just disappearing? So you're analyzing that whole client journey, for lack of a better term,
Yeah,
to see where in that is the problem, or maybe there's multiple problems, right?
definitely. And for marketing, the end of the journey dictates the start of the journey. Let me explain what I mean by that. You have something called lifetime value with our clients. That is the total amount that they will spend on services throughout their time inside of your practice. Now, if we have small amount of sessions, the average person does two, three, four sessions, they're only spending a couple $100 with you. Now, if they're sticking for 6 months, 12 months, they're spending a few $1,000s with you. If you have other packages or service or care lines, right, maybe they're spending even more. You can't, and this should make sense, spend as much on a client to get them in the door if they're not going to spend that much to stay with you and spend with you. So, practices who don't understand that your lifetime value guides how much you should spend on marketing. Those two things are inextricably tied. But a lot of times practice owners are trying to set a marketing budget without knowing their lifetime value, and or they're trying to increase lifetime value or get more clients through the door, and they actually have great numbers over here and they aren't investing in marketing proportionally. So those two things need to kind of always be a push
Yeah, so
pull
you're
as we look at
saying
it.
there's not a cookie cutter way of doing that because it really depends. Like if you're a cash-based practice and you're, high end, you're charging $250 a session, then you can quote afford to add more to your budget because the value is there versus if you're getting paid $80 a session, unless you have a massive volume, you're not necessarily going to apply the same amount. And it's important for the owner, because I know a lot of us don't like to look at numbers and the key
Yeah.
performance indicators and all that. But what you're saying, if you don't do that, you could just be pissing money away.
100%. And you'll wonder, wow, why is it so hard to feel good about the marketing dollars that I'm spending? And it's either because you haven't done the math and you realize the ratio is going great, or you suddenly do the math and you're like, oh, the average client only spends 1,000 with us, and my cost to acquire them is $600 through Google Ads. That's not going to work once I run the rest of my costs inside of this.
Right. So you mentioned this framework, the marketing success formula. Take me through what that is.
Yeah, so there's, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 4. So it's kind of that, hey, we need successful marketing to be happening for a practice. So what are the levers we have to pull? And if they aren't in place, how can we spot if it's going wrong? So the first lever is strategy. Do we have a good strategy that can meet the needs for the practice? There was a lot of hype and success for Psychology Today and other listing sites. They had their heyday. That's receding pretty considerably as a scalable strategy in 2026. So, not the best strategy, right, to scale up and out for the practice. So, we need the right strategy, but that's probably the easiest to get right because there's lots of strategies that are working in 2026. But then we move to the next one, which is consistency. How long do we have to be doing the marketing effort and the marketing work to actually get the result from it? or get a return on investment from it. So something like AI search, brand investment, community events, Google Ads, all of these have a different amount of consistency that we need to do them before we can see an ROI. We were talking about you launching this podcast, right? If you launched one podcast one time, you're not going to get a huge effect on your business or impact
Nope.
long term. So you need to do it for a long period of time. But then that gives us the third category, which is volume. If you release one episode a year for 10 years in a row, okay, you've been consistent annually, but you haven't done enough volume for it to actually matter. So sometimes practices aren't doing enough networking and they're intermittent on their community partnerships. So if we go back to the start of like the practice who has seen some receding referrals, often it's volume or consistency. They stopped doing the volume on marketing strategies that were working for them, or they started to get intermittent as other things have filled their calendar. So they had the right strategy, but inconsistency and amount have started to vary. And then we do have skill as the final bucket. There's a difference between a well organized, well optimized website by someone who knows what they're doing and a general website. There's a difference between a high quality keyword researched article and a low quality. There's a difference between a good podcast episode and like a okay podcast episode. So we do need skill involved in that equation to see success. And I just kind of go down each one of these categories until we see something that is clearly amiss. And that gives us clues on where to start and what to fix with their marketing.
Okay. So that makes sense. So you look at these four areas and you're looking for where um, the biggest challenges, the biggest problem, the biggest area that's not being addressed. And I assume you then put together a plan, put together a strategy that addresses that. And then um, what's I guess what's the biggest challenge that the owners have? I mean, a lot of work that we do as private coaches, executive coaches is, I don't like to say the word mindset, but it's just how people think about stuff, how people make
Yeah.
decisions. And you're bringing a lot of that up right now because when people hear marketing, there's a visceral component, there's an emotional thing that happens when you're talking about how much money we should put in marketing. Our mindset goes immediately to the idea that I'm putting money in marketing and that's a cost. And the reality is, well, no, you're actually investing that to get it back, very similar as you invested a bunch of money into school to hopefully get a degree and hopefully get a job and live, a life that you want, but there's no guarantees. Can you take me through the challenge that people have, like the owners themselves? What is the problem that they have? If you want, you can break it down to each of those areas, or you can just general, what are the problem people have when they actually even approach marketing that could be causing some issues versus the tactical or the strategy of it?
Yeah. I think I can probably go segment set by segment because there's often a belief that needs to be understood and an action that needs to be taken through it if you want to find success on the other side of it. So when it comes to choosing a good marketing strategy, most practice owners feel the pressure to have 5, 10, 15 different marketing strategies. Oh, I need to do ads, I need to do SEO, I need to have a great social media profile. I need to, and it doesn't stop. And right, that's because you see other practices, you see other coaches, you see other businesses have success in all of those formats, and you're looking to have success in your own business. And I have felt this too. Really, you only add strategies when you already are at the max or the consistency of a current strategy that you've chosen. And the larger you get, yes, the more marketing strategies you need. But really, if you are sub 7 figures in revenue, you really only need 2 or 3 marketing channels or marketing strategies. Even if you're like under $5 million in annual revenue, you probably only need to like have 4 to 6. If you're under $10 million in annual revenue, you probably only need like 7 to 8 diversified marketing channels and ways to engage leads. So on a strategy level, the first thing is remove the pressure on doing it all, but you also have to get good and stay committed to the one, two, three, four, five strategies and then go one at a time. Because if you never crack the code on just one, you're always going to dilute yourself across whatever strategies you're trying. And it feels easier at first to do a little bit of everything. Long term, you never get good or find success with any one thing when you approach it that way.
Right. It's my motto is less is more, and that's really what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Less going wide and going deeper. And when you focus and become better
Yeah.
at fewer things, you're going to have better results. Let me be the devil's advocate here, from personal experience. So someone comes to you and they say, look, I've done marketing, right? I've done coaching, I've done mental health. It didn't work, whatever. But I've done marketing, and they said the same, similar things, I should say, as you're saying, especially the one that talks about time. And that's an easy one to kind of manipulate because the
Yeah.
answer could be more time. In other words, what you're doing is perfect. So it has to be the solution is more time, which to the owner is throwing out more money.
Yeah.
What do you say to that when someone says that to you? And what are your thoughts around, look, in every industry, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And our job as consumers is to try to figure out who is the right fit for us. So,
Yeah.
can you just kind of speak to that? Because I know that's something that when we're working with clients or talking to clients, we address marketing and more relationship marketing, but when people need a marketing company, we're going to refer out, and that's a pushback that I get when they say, "Well, who are you going to refer me to?" Because we've hired companies before, and it
Right.
quote didn't work. What
Yeah.
say you, Joshua?
They're going to say, "Hey, we need 3 months to get this to work. There's just not enough data yet to make it happen. There's
Yeah.
fill in the blank." The number one way that you solve that before you hire those marketing companies is you get really clear boundary conditions on what the average time is, and you say yes or no to that, and you just discontinue engagement unless they have incredibly crystal clear reasons on why it's varying away from that. So if they are confused, if they don't have good reasoning, if there is not logic that underpins the extension of their own time horizons, and or they can't give firm benchmarks on how they will grow your ads, your SEO, your account, or X, Y, and Z, then they're probably not tracking things to the degree that you want them to. Now, therapists won't say this, but if you give them a set of conditions and you're like, hey, how long do you think a client on average should probably see you to work on these sets of issues? They're going to be like, it depends, X, Y, and Z's. But if you really push into them, they're going to be like, okay, we can probably get some significant work done in 12 sessions, or it's going to take a lot longer, X, Y, and Z. So sometimes you have to know enough on your time horizons, and it's learning the language of marketing a little bit so that way you can interview your agencies just a little bit better. Hey, what do you expect on month over month site traffic growth? What is your target cost per acquisition through this channel? How do you plan to track my return on investment inside of this channel month over month? What's your process to optimize if things go wrong? We use at TherapyFlow a heuristic called just green, yellow, red. And an account is in green, which means all of the positive KPIs are going great. It's in yellow. It's okay. It's headed in the right direction, maybe, but like adjustments need to be made. Or it's in red. Something's broken and needs to be rebuilt, redone, relaunched. And every month, our practice owners get a report on whatever work we're doing for them, on kind of what ratio it's in. So that way they can evaluate and they know how we're ranking the health of their accounts through that. So some of it is just like what information does that agency track, have available, and can communicate? And if they don't have a lot of that, you're going to end up down the road with we need more time, we're seeking clarity, we're X, Y, and Z. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And then the second really just pragmatic thing is often marketing results when they are failing, it's a little bit like rewriting a ship. So if you had been getting results and they're really going off track, if there's not urgency to bring that back to center, that's a huge issue. SEO doesn't take years, it takes months. Google Ads doesn't take months, it takes weeks to see positive results. So often there's shorter time horizons that need to be in place to see measured or improved results. And many practice owners are too patient with that.
Okay. Um, Speaking again from someone that is speaking to a lot of
Yeah.
these types of people, and being a business owner myself, and have had these discussions with
Yeah. I'm sure
many
you've been through the gambit of them.
marketers. I've been in the rooms with the marketers. I look at myself as partly a marketer because we have to market in our own businesses. One of the things that at Practice Freedom U that we really focus on and teach is this idea of accountability.
Yeah.
Part of coaching, part of our job is to hold that owner accountable because holding ourselves accountable doesn't work. And part of their job is to own it, is holding their leadership team, their management team accountable, and so on and so forth. Where does the accountability come in when you're working with a agency that says all the stuff you want to hear, says all the numbers and all that, but there's no accountability specifically? Or you mentioned, so I'm going to be accountable by doing what you asked me to do, providing whatever information and writing checks.
Yeah.
Where should be, and you can speak obviously to your own company or companies where should the accountability be on the other side? Where should it begin and where should it maybe not end or something like that? Because obviously, at the end of the day, it is the responsibility of the owner, unless the person is just doing the whole thing and set it and forget it, which I don't necessarily
Yeah.
believe in that. But speak to the accountability because I know that's a big pain point with a lot of
Mhm.
practice owners.
So I think that's where we go down the consistency, the volume, and the skill. If you're a practice owner and you haven't done a lot of marketing, sometimes it's hard to understand what degree of skill or execution is taking place. But usually it's the consistency or the volume that is failing first. And those things are actually pretty easy to measure. So, one thing when we're talking to a lot of practice owners who are struggling with an agency or a vendor in the past, and I ask them, and it starts with you, I ask them, hey, have you looked at your numbers? Do you know your numbers? A lot of practices think that, hey, I have a marketing person or a marketing team. So they aren't aware then. They don't sit down monthly even and review some of the numbers in their different marketing channels. And I think it really starts with that because if you're unaware of that, just like if you're unaware of your practices intake close ratio and you don't have a manager in place that is in charge of making sure that is going great, that number can get away from you really quickly. And the same is true in your other marketing. If you don't have someone sitting there that's on your side, your practice side, owning the look at those numbers and making sure they're in the green, the yellow, or the red and improving, it can get off track pretty quickly. And for good or for bad, agencies might take an inch or they might take a mile on how consistent they are with your account and or how much volume they're doing, how much attention they're giving on your account. So that's a piece of it, is it does start with you to review the numbers and make sure someone's managing that account
Right.
well.
So I think one of the things that you're saying and working with the clients that are working with you, so I can speak from a coach working with a client working with you
Yeah.
guys. Joshua is walking the talk, so to speak. He's not just blowing smoke. But the idea of you were talking about it starts with the owner, and then it's making sure that the agency, the person is clear on the expectations, has the data to support that, the results, obviously. I would imagine that one of the criteria, if you're a practice owner looking for an agency, looking for help in marketing, is they're just not looking for you as I used to say when I used to hire a physical therapist is I want a pulse and a license and the pulse is optional. I just wanted a therapist that had a license. And what I realized is I was getting the wrong fits. And
Yeah.
that was costing me so much more because I was overwhelmed and desperate. Do you, and I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways, do you actually have a qualification process to bring on a client? And if so, what are a couple of those things that you look for and that people should look for, whether obviously, looking at working with you or maybe another agency, that they're just not looking for, yeah, yeah, we can do this, we can do this. And it's almost like this desperation, we can solve it all. Because I know
Yeah.
at Practice Freedom U, the biggest change I made over the years, and I've been doing this 13 years now, is we are clear on the type of person that wins with us, and we're clear with the type of person that doesn't. And I'm
Right.
not as interested in bringing that person on because we're frankly not the best fit.
Yeah.
And that has helped the company, the coaches, obviously the clients, and all of that. What
Yeah.
about you?
So I think from our perspective, and you can recreate this for yourself as a practice owner, is we try and be incredibly clear on how much money you're going to have to invest in that marketing channel over what time horizon to get a result. And a different way to say this is your return on investment rhythm. When you engage a new agency and then your ongoing work with them. And so if you say, "Hey, I'd love to do search engine optimization on your website," great. Can you invest this amount of money over this period of time to get on average this type of result? Does that make sense for you? And we have a really strong conversation about does that make sense for you? And it's usually through that lens of no, that doesn't. This is my last marketing dollar. I can't wait 6 months. This is my fill in the blank. Or no, you know what? I can't X, Y, and Z. And so each one of the marketing channels, we kind of have many different sets of qualifications for. But the biggest thing that I come down to is can you invest this money over this period of time until we start to see the results? And we get really clear about those two things. And if the answer is yes, it's probably going to be a good fit. Because if we're 3 months into search engine optimization and website overhaul, and you want to pause as a practice owner because things are really tight, or we have a poor marketing mindset and we weren't prepared, we're going to almost flush all of that money down the drain. And we never should have done it to begin with, chosen something else that would have been helpful for the practice. It's the equivalent of like, can you build the whole house? And if we can't, let's not try and build half of it because a half-built house isn't a home to live in, so to speak. And so that's kind of what it takes for each one of the marketing channels. And again, if a marketing agency can't give you good, reasonable estimates inside of those things, that might not be a great partner for you to work with. And the only caveat that I'd put in that is sometimes you as a business owner are trying to do something brand new that you've never done before and that agency has never done before. You're launching a new product that isn't proven, a new cash pay model, a new service line that no one's searching for. That's where we also have to say, great, this is exploratory product launching. There's not an active demand for this service right now, which means we can use proven marketing methods, but we can't use marketing data that's been used to measure other services that aren't like this and compare to when you're going to get a result.
Got it. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Um, Marketing is always shifting with the
Yeah.
technology and AI and everything else that's happening right now. What's we're second half of 2026 when we're recording this. What do you see over the next 6 to 12 months in the marketing landscape right now for private
Yeah.
practices?
Two things immediately come to mind. One is because of AI search, and this is true for Google and any other AI platform that people are searching inside of, it's shuffled the deck on websites and website rankings pretty considerably. And so that does mean that local optimization tactics, general website optimization for SEO and AI search, there's actually a lot of low-hanging fruit there that has appeared again. I'd say that SEO, and website ranking is becoming our number one growth channel for our practices that are committed to it. And they're seeing great results in 3, 4, 5 months. So a pretty short time horizon of seeing big volume coming from that. And it's really because so much has changed. So sites have been deranked. There's new keywords that are open to rank for. There's a lot of technical stuff, but I think the next 12 months are going to be really positive for the practices who really step on the gas on website brand, website keyword ranking, and some of those pieces. The second tactical thing that I see it working a lot of is just email and text message marketing, engaging your leads faster and more often, reactivating old clients or putting reactivations even while clients are with you in order to extend the lifetime value and keep them engaged long term. There's a lot that you can do in email and text message marketing and nurture that's going to engage your list and convert more clients. And most practices still aren't doing that or doing that well.
Yeah, to just your point of what you said, I've heard this from I asked this question from a lot of people, and you're spot on with that. The medium itself is how do you connect with people? People have their phones on them 24/7. As long as you're not annoying and you're a trusted source, which let's face it, there's not many more trusted people than us,
Yeah.
as owners, as professionals, as healthcare providers, mental health providers. When you reach out and check in with people, it just comes off as such a positive thing, and that reactivation strategy is huge. So that's definitely something. And then what you said with the whole AI, how it's shifting and how people are using AI as the search engine versus the previous ways of doing it, you got to shift your strategy.
Yeah.
It goes kind of hand in hand. Um, so as you as we kind of speak about the system and people wanting, look, we're all we all want it now.
Yeah.
It's the ADD world. The younger folks especially, and they should want it now because they just grew up with instantaneous gratification. Um, Give me the tactics. So what should I do?
Yeah.
And I want it now.
I want it now too. It's not, I think it's true in all
Yeah.
formats.
I want it now. I just know that getting it now is going to happen when I put the the right system and the right perspective around it and the right effort in the right places. It will happen now. Now just might be 6 months, but in 6 months it'll be now. So
I,
it's always going to be now. You just have to create the now. For
I
people that are thinking, that's probably your smaller people there,
yeah.
just smaller as in revenue size. What would you say to them just in that type of thinking of the people thinking about tactics? And of course, there's a lot of clickbait, there's a lot of stuff out there, 30 new clients in 30 days, you don't have to do anything, just do this one thing. And it's like, you know,
Yeah.
what would you say to them? How would you shift how they should be thinking about their business, specifically around marketing?
Yeah. I have used some of those tactics in my own business and sometimes for our therapy practices. The hard part is tactics fail pretty quickly, and whether that's a month or even 6 months, the tactic runs out. And so we have to go back to systems thinking on how are we going to make this sustainable. Sometimes that just means you're committed to the cycle of always finding a new tactic to leverage and push in. But that's a different experience when you build that expectation than jumping from tactic to tactic kind of furtively and trying to always make it work. The thing that comes to mind, and I love this, is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And most practice owners don't pursue smoothness or slowness inside of their marketing department because speed is a byproduct of the work that you're doing consistently. And so if you don't have things that you are consistently committed to and increasing volume on, building the foundations of your community partnerships and really scaling that across 6, 12 months, 2 years,
Mhm.
5 years, and having that vision, you can get a lot of results now, but we have to have a time horizon that's longer than 1 month or 2 months. The same is true for our paid ad strategy, our web strategy, our brand strategy, and any other tactics we talk about. We can say, hey, what will get us the burst of action now? But if we let it drop off pretty quickly, so slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And anytime I've implemented in my own business a benchmark, reoccurring thing that I'm really committed to consistency and have added it almost like a brick on a wall that stays there all the time, that's when the business has structurally grown. It's when I'm like tossing a bunch of rocks, hoping that they stay on top of the wall, that they eventually all fall off and I have to like restart.
Yeah, I love that. You're speaking to what we do is in the coaching world. Like everything you're mentioning right now, there's always a strategy, there's always a mechanics of how to do something. And it shifts over time. It shifts with, different technologies and stuff like that. But the real magic is everything you've talked about is how the owner should approach something, how the owner should think about something, how the owner should look at, I want to create a smooth process. What does that actually mean? The process just happens to be the process in marketing or the
Yeah.
process in conversion. So the business, my philosophy is the business can never outgrow the emotional maturity and the thinking around the owner. So
Yeah.
really, if you want to expand and scale your business, all you have to do is continue to evolve and get better yourself. And you'll be able to see things differently, have conversations with people like yourself in TherapyFlow that then lead to not just incremental results, but exponential results. Um, Having said that, people are interested. What's Joshua offering? Where's TherapyFlow? Where can I find? Where can I learn more? Where can I dip
Yeah.
my toe in the water and maybe eventually have a conversation? How can they do that, Joshua?
For sure. I had one last thought before I share that, and that's just to say is marketing is a skill. And if you're the practice owner and you don't want to do the marketing, the skill you have to acquire is managing and leading others in the practice that are doing the marketing. We had a long conversation today about managing agency vendors for your practice. And that's really a skill to know what to do and how to do it. So just know if you're like, oh, I want to grow my practice, you're kind of in this dividing line of if you do the work, you need to acquire the skill to do the work great. Or if you don't do the work, need to figure out how to hire, manage, and lead those that are doing the work. And those are two different skills, right? But
Oh,
we have great marketers on our team, and they will never own a business. And we have great practice owners who are managing therapy flow with us, right? Helping scale. So I
yeah,
think about that a lot.
it's a great way of positioning that. And our audience, and I know a lot of people that'll be listening to this, is the people that embrace the who not how philosophy that Dan Sullivan originally, I guess, coined. Like, it's been around for years, but he originally coined that, and the idea that yes, you can do your own marketing. You're going to have a very, very small business in doing that. Now, when you're
Yeah,
first starting, no problem. However, as you get to that seven figures and multiple seven figures, you have to get the skill of understanding who the right person is. It's the same thing as hiring, whether you're hiring an agency or you're hiring an individual, your skill and talent becomes how well can you look for and hire talented people. So
definitely.
you're one of those talented people. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, so you can connect with us in one of three ways. We really believe that we want you to either delegate your marketing so you can grow or be equipped as a leader to holistically grow your practice. So you'll go to mytherapyflow.com. That's just our main website. You can book a call and we can run a little audit and have a conversation about taking over marketing channels or helping you improve. We have a HIPAA compliant CRM to help with intake, close rates, marketing tracking, email marketing, some of those down the funnel things that become important. And then we host a couple annual conferences. You spoke at our last one, and that was incredible. So we have a virtual marketing and growth summit. And then we have an in-person event, even here in September, called Group Practice Con in Chicago, where those are already above seven figures and beyond. We bring in speakers and a full event experience to just equip people holistically as leaders and scalers of their practice. So if you need marketing help, connect, automation helps, connect, or come to one of our events and grow as a leader.
I love it, man. So appreciate you being here. And look, if something resonated with you today, and I hope it did, it did, don't just listen. Don't just gather more knowledge. Do something with it. And if you want more clarity of where your business is and what to focus on next, take our practice growth assessment. It'll help you better understand what's actually driving your business and what may be holding you back. And if this episode helped you think differently, share it with another practice owner who needs to hear it. Thanks for listening. I'm Jamey Schrier, and this is Freedom by Design.